Rio de Janeiro, 1996. The most famous entertainer on earth, Michael Jackson, climbs into the hills above Botafogo with Spike Lee, a camera crew, dancers, and security. The air was thick with humidity, and down below, Rio still looked like paradise. Christ the Redeemer continuously watching over the city like a silent witness. But up in Dona Marta, life was a lot different. The streets disappeared into staircases leading to concrete houses stacked on top of one another. Children leaned from doorways and mothers watched from windows. And somewhere in that maze, men with rifles controlled what the government could not. 48 hours earlier, Hollywood's biggest pop star was nearly barred from filming here. But a phone call to an unlikely negotiator changed everything. And on that hill, the man whose word was law was Marcinho VP Oliveira, better known as Marcinho VP. In a world where the police refuse to enter and the government looks the other way, a young drug lord holds the power to make the King of Pop's protest song a reality. Then the cameras left, the music faded, and the man who helped make the moment possible became too visible to let live. To better understand Marcinho VP Oliveira, you have to understand the geography of power in Rio. Dona Marta, where the residents of the Santa Marta favela reside, sits in the Botafogo district in Rio's South Zone. A favela that scales the mountainside pressed between wealth and abandonment, sitting above one of the most photographed places in the world. Down below, tourists enjoy the ocean air, hotels, taxis, bars, and apartment towers. The government's presence here consisted mainly of raids and the occasional politician trolling for votes. But in Santa Marta, however, there was another authority. By the 80s and 90s, Rio's favelas had become battlegrounds for drug traffickers, and residents knew that no one enters or does business there without a trafficker's consent. Cocaine changed the economy of the streets, and guns changed the balance of power. The Commando Vermelho, or the Red Command, became one of the names most associated with that era, controlling the favela's drug trade and social order. They settled disputes, paid for parties, helped some families but punished others. They were businessmen, soldiers, judges, and executioners all at the same time. The job required strategic thinking, ruthlessness, and charisma, all qualities that Marcinho possessed, qualities that made him both loved and feared. Long before the headlines called him a drug lord, Marcinho VP Oliveira was a boy inside the same hills he would one day command. His family roots reached back to Paraíba. His parents moved to Rio in the 1960s and first settled around Shampoo Mangueira near Leme. After his parents separated, his mother, Josefa Amaro, moved to Santa Marta, and that's where Marcinho and his sister would grow up. As a teenager, he helped care for his younger sisters while his mother worked as a servant. His mother stated he became involved with trafficking at around age 16, running errands for the gang and quickly earning trust inside the organization. The drug trade offered what the legal world rarely gave kids like him, a fast route to status, money, women, and fear. Marcinho eventually inherited the hillside from his uncle, Pedrinho de Prata, after his arrest. And by age 24, he was running the Dona Marta points of sale, paying lookouts, managing bribes, and arbitrating neighborhood disputes. In 1987, a conflict over control of the drug trade made the favela a headline. Cameras showed armed men, heavy weapons, and young people pulled into a war way bigger than themselves. That was the world Michael Jackson stepped into, and that's why the video shoot was so dangerous. Every staircase had eyes, every corner had rules, every outsider had to be accountable for. And when Michael Jackson came to record a protest song about neglect, racism, police brutality, and people being forgotten, Rio's officials understood the danger of the image. A global superstar standing in a favela could do what no government press release could undo. It could show the world what Rio tried to hide behind beaches and Olympic dreams. When Spike Lee tried to secure the location, he learned that the governor refused and that the police wouldn't guarantee Jackson's safety. Lee sought the only person that could, Marcinho VP. For Spike Lee, Santa Marta gave the record a visual weight that a studio never could. Marcinho promised to keep the favela calm if the crew respected his residents. For 3 days, traffickers patrolled the area and instructed neighbors not to fire any weapons. Spike Lee later stated that during filming, Dona Marta was the safest place on earth. Yet this piece rested on a paradox. The state's absence allowed an outlaw to become a guardian, turning a music video into a lesson in urban geopolitics, and showed the world a part of Rio that postcards cropped out. The video became historic, but Marcinho's name became more infamous. In the days after, Rio's newspapers splashed Marcinho's name across their front pages. Police were furious that the film crew worked with the Favela's Kingpin to provide security, showing that they may wear the uniform, but the Hill had its own authority. That contradiction was the whole story of Rio, beautiful and brutal, joyful and armed. For the young drug lord, the international spotlight was intoxicating and dangerous. The press wanted the man behind the curtain, and Marcinho wanted to talk, giving interviews that only infuriated the powers that be even more. In the papers, he was no longer just a trafficker in a favela. He became a character, the kind of villain that media could sell and the police could hunt. And with that, the myth had been born. Governor Marcelo Alencar, furious at the publicity, vowed to capture him. And only 8 days after the Jackson video shoot, Marcinho was arrested. 8 months later, he escaped from jail after a woman smuggled a pistol into the facility, hidden in her toddler's clothing. In a daring breakout, prisoners seized weapons and freed several inmates, including Marcinho. Investigators later revealed that a guard had accepted a bribe. While on the run, Marcinho gave more interviews, criticizing police brutality and inequality, drawing parallels between the favela and Quilombos dos Palmares, a community of runaway slaves. But there were many besides the police who didn't appreciate the attention Marcinho was getting, because inside criminal organizations, silence is currency, and Marcinho was spending too much of it. Marcinho stayed on the run until he was captured again in April 2000. He was taken into custody and sent to Bangu prison. Bangu was a pressure cooker for Rio's underworld, men who still had power outside the walls. Marcinho entered that world with a reputation larger than his protection. Inside prison, he kept writing. He asked for the right to study, talked about law, literature, philosophy, inequality, and the failures of the state. He was a man too criminal for society, too public for the criminal world, too famous for safety, and too outspoken for prison politics. Then came journalist Caco Barcelos, who spent years inside the world of Dona Marta and Marcinho VP, turning that research into the book Abusado o Dono do Mato Dona Marta, where Marcinho appeared under the name Juliano VP. But the book was more than a crime story. It exposed the favela's drug economy, police violence, corruption, and real names and old wounds that could bring retaliation. And once those pages reached the streets and the prisons, Marcinho's own organization began seeing him as a loudmouth chasing attention, sending threats warning him to stay quiet. On July 28, 2003 in Bangu prison, Marcinho VP was supposed to receive a visit from his lawyer. But when the lawyer arrived, something was wrong. Marcinho never appeared. At first there was confusion. Then came the count. Marcinho was missing from the gallery. Authorities searched the prison and found him stuffed in a trash container, dead from strangulation. Days earlier, police had intercepted a message from another inmate, Marcio dos Santos Napomuceno, that read, "Shut up or you'll end up in a ditch. You're trying to show off too much." Police speculated that Napomuceno ordered the hit, although he denied it. Marcinho's death in the prison dumpster underscores how fleeting power is. No cinematic ending, no final speech, no last stand on the hill. The exact reason behind his killing remained tangled in prison politics, but the symbolism was impossible to miss. Marcinho VP had made the fatal mistake of becoming famous in a world that survives on silence.